My in-laws constantly gave me fake jewelry as gifts while bragging about their wealth, claiming that it was real, pure gold. Then they started making fun of all the poor people gifts my family would give me on special occasions. Now they're flabbergasted because I have decided to support their current financial crisis by returning their so-called gold jewelry to be sold and used as cash. I always felt like an outsider around my in-laws. Even though I have been married into the family for years, they've never truly accepted me as one of their own. It's always been clear that they see me as different, like I don't quite belong. A big part of this, I believe, is because of where I come from. You see, my background is very different from my husband's. He was raised in an upper-middle-class family. His childhood was filled with comfort and stability. He lived in a gated community, went to top-rated schools, and had access to all the best things growing up. On the other hand, I didn't have those same opportunities. I grew up with very little. My family struggled to make ends meet, and we often had to go without things other people might take for granted. My parents themselves came from very humble beginnings. They had almost nothing when they started out, but they worked incredibly hard to give me a better life than they had. They didn't have much money, but they gave everything they could to make sure I had the basics: food on the table, clothes to wear, and a roof over my head. I still remember nights when they would quietly skip dinner because there wasn't enough food for all of us. But no matter how little they had, they always made sure I ate well. Their love and sacrifices meant everything to me. I went to a regular public school, not a fancy private one like my husband. I didn't have big birthday parties every year, and we rarely went on vacations. But even without those things, I didn't feel like I was missing out. However, because of these differences in family, I often feel looked down on by my husband's family. It's as if they think I'm not good enough just because I didn't come from the same kind of life they did. Years ago, when I met my husband in college, one of the first things I noticed about him was how sad and distant he often seemed. He carried a quiet heaviness, like something was always weighing on him. As I got to know him better, I began to understand why. Unlike my parents, who were always present and involved in my life, his parents didn't give much attention or emotional support. They weren't there for him in the ways he needed them to be. His father was always wrapped up in his job, constantly working and rarely around. And even when he was home, he didn't seem interested in spending time with his son or getting to know him. His mother wasn't much better. She was more focused on her own social life and spent most of her time with friends instead of with her children. My husband grew up feeling neglected and emotionally alone, even though he had all the material comforts. He also has a sister who has dealt with serious struggles of her own. She has been constantly in and out of rehab because of her drug addiction, and that added even more stress to the family. Instead of receiving support, my husband often had to deal with issues around him on his own. It was clear that despite having money and a comfortable lifestyle, he missed out on the kind of love and stability that my parents gave me. Sometimes I wonder how my husband turned out to be such a grounded, kind person after growing up in that kind of household. From everything he's told me about his childhood, none of it sounds warm or comforting. In fact, it's hard to imagine growing up in that environment and coming out the other side without being completely broken, but somehow he did. Our relationship began with friendship. It was always easy to talk to him. He was the one who eventually asked me out, and from there everything just fell into place. The rest, as they say, is history. One thing I always appreciated about him was his honesty. He never tried to hide or sugarcoat anything when it came to his family. From the very beginning, he told me what they were like. He warned me that they were extremely concerned with appearances and cared a lot about what others thought of them, but said they could be judgmental, cold, and quite snooty. At the time I believed him, but I don't think I fully understood just how right he was until I started spending time around them myself. When I met his mother for the first time, it was just a few months after we started dating. Right away, I could tell she wasn't happy about her son being with me. On the surface, she acted polite and friendly whenever I was around, but I quickly realized it was just a show. And later that same night, after we had left, she sent my husband a text message. In it, she told him to stop running around with girls like me and said I wasn't good enough for him. It hurt to hear, but my husband didn't let her words affect our relationship. We kept dating and growing closer. However, things got even worse after my husband and I moved in together. His mother threw a huge fit. She didn't hold back and started spreading rumors among his family that this was all part of my plan to trap her son, and that I was only interested in their money and that I was using him for my own gain. It was painful and frustrating to deal with, but my husband stood by me. It made me realize just how harsh and cruel she could be towards me. Despite everything she said and did, the only reason our relationship even lasted was because my husband always respected me. He never let his mother's words bring me down, and he stood up to his mother every time she tried to put me down or interfere in our lives. We stayed strong and refused to let her negativity break us apart. After a few months, he proposed to me, and then we got married at a private ceremony. It was a special moment for both of us, but it was also a big change for his family. The same family who had disliked me for so long, mainly because of my background and where I came from, suddenly had to accept that I wasn't going anywhere. I was now a permanent part of my husband's life and there was no turning back. They had to come to terms with that reality whether they liked it or not. During our first family event after our marriage, my in-laws decided to surprise both me and my husband with a gift. They gave me a gold bracelet as a wedding gift. I almost couldn't believe it. His mother and sister told me that they had both gone shopping together to find the perfect present for me, and they had come across this bracelet and felt it was just right for me. They kept bragging about how it was real pure gold and how much it must be worth. At first, I was really touched by their effort and generosity. I thanked them warmly, thinking this might be the moment they were finally starting to accept me as part of the family. After giving me the bracelet, my mother-in-law suddenly asked what my family had gifted us for our marriage. I told her that my parents had given us an air fryer because I had always wanted one. Instead of being happy for us, my mother-in-law snorted and said it was such a poor people gift. She added that my parents should have given us something more expensive. My sister-in-law quickly agreed with her and added how my parents needed to step up and give us a better wedding gift since they were gifting me gold jewelry. Even though their words hurt, I chose to stay quiet. I didn't want to cause any arguments or make the event tense. It was painful to hear them put down my family's gift, and I didn't want to start any drama in front of everyone. A little while after the family event, I was showing this gold bracelet to a close friend. I wanted to share how thoughtful the gift from my in-laws seemed, but my friend took a closer look and gently told me that the bracelet wasn't real gold at all. It was actually fake. I couldn't believe it at first. I argued that my in-laws would never do something like that and I didn't want to believe they could be so disrespectful. To be sure, my friend and I decided to go to a jewelry shop to get it checked. The jeweler carefully examined the bracelet and confirmed what my friend had said. It wasn't real gold. It was just a cheap imitation. Hearing this made my heart sink. I felt embarrassed, hurt, and angry all at once. How could they have done this? It was painful to realize that what I thought was a kind gesture from my in-laws was actually a way for them to look down on me and make a mockery of the gift. Later, I showed the bracelet to my husband and told him that it was fake. He was just as upset as I was, and we were both stunned that his own family would have the audacity to give me something that was not only fake, but was passed off as something valuable. It felt like a cruel joke, like they were trying to humiliate me or remind me that they still didn't really accept me. Maybe they thought I would never find out or that it wouldn't matter even if I did. The whole situation made me feel small and disrespected in a way that was hard to put into words. My husband wanted to confront his family about this matter immediately, but I asked my husband not to say anything to his family right away. I needed time to think about how to handle it carefully. I wanted to wait for the right moment before addressing it and maybe even return the bracelet to them in a way that made it clear I wasn't going to accept being treated like that. Over the years, every Christmas without fail, my mother-in-law keeps giving me fake gold jewelry as a gift. It's hard to understand how she thinks I'm so naive because it's really obvious that the pieces are cheap, store-bought, fake gold. But every time she hands me a gift she insists loudly that it's real gold and that she picked it out thinking of me. I've always kept quiet about it and let her get away with it because I didn't want to cause trouble. At the same time, she never misses a chance to ask me what my family has given me, and then she makes rude comments about them. It's hurtful to hear her talk down about my family, especially since she doesn't treat them with any respect. What makes it even worse is that she has no problem giving my husband or sister-in-law expensive high-end gifts. I've seen her give a Rolex watch to my husband and a Dior perfume to my sister-in-law, so it's clear she treats me very differently and it's been painful to deal with over the years. One time my husband and I were hosting a party at our place with family and friends gathered together. It was supposed to be a happy occasion, but things took a painful turn when my mother-in-law and sister-in-law started making rude comments about my parents right in front of everyone. They mainly began by criticizing my parents for never giving expensive gifts. My mother-in-law sneered, saying that my family didn't know how to properly celebrate or show respect because they never gave anything worthwhile. My sister-in-law quickly jumped in and pointed out how my husband's side was always better at gift giving. Both of them said this unabashedly as if it were a normal thing to say to my parents. Hearing this in front of all our guests was humiliating. I felt shocked and hurt because my parents had done everything they could for me, sacrificing so much to give me love and care, not expensive things. To have them insult me like that in front of others made me feel small and powerless. It was clear that my mother-in-law and sister-in-law didn't respect my family at all, and it was painful to see them treat the people I loved with such cruelty. After hearing those harsh comments, my parents tried to respond calmly. My mother, with grace and quiet dignity, began to explain our situation. She told them that while we may not come from money, we have always given from the heart. She said that every gift, no matter how simple, came with love and meaning, and that should matter more than a price tag. My father too tried to explain that we value thoughtfulness over material things, but before they could finish my husband stepped in. He'd had enough. He interrupted his mother and sister and told them firmly but clearly to back off. He reminded them that it was completely out of line to talk to my parents that way, especially in our home, and especially at a party meant to bring people together and not tear them down. Despite feeling hurt, I didn't say anything that night because I didn't want to start a scene in front of everyone. But inside I was upset and seething at my in-laws that they could be so disrespectful and insensitive towards my family. I couldn't wait to one day take my sweet revenge on my in-laws at the right opportunity. This year, my golden chance has finally come. You see, my sister-in-law has been going through a really tough financial crisis. She was caught gambling away most of her money, which caused a lot of problems, and on top of that, her boyfriend broke up with her and kicked her out of his house. Now she's moved back in with my in-laws. So for months now, my in-laws have been bending over backwards to support my sister-in-law. She's going through what they like to call a difficult time, but from what I can see she's just not doing much with her life. She doesn't have a job and isn't making any effort to find one. She doesn't contribute anything financially or otherwise. She's not helping out around the house. She's not trying to be independent, and she shows no interest in being responsible for herself. Despite all that, my mother-in-law and father-in-law continue to do everything for her. They cover all her expenses from rent to clothes to even her little indulgences. She spends money like it's endless, constantly buying designer items, going out and living beyond her means. Even though she has no income of her own, it's honestly frustrating to watch. While the rest of us are working hard to manage our lives and make responsible choices, sister-in-law gets to sit back and be treated like some kind of victim or princess who deserves special treatment. My in-laws excuse everything she does, no matter how reckless or irresponsible. It's like they're enabling her to stay stuck in this lifestyle where she doesn't have to grow up or take accountability for anything. Anyway, this month I received a big promotion at work. It was something I had worked incredibly hard for, and it felt amazing to finally see all that effort being recognized. Along with the promotion came a significant salary increase. I was proud of myself and excited about what this meant for our future: more stability, more freedom, and the ability to plan ahead with less stress. My husband was happy for me, and we were both looking forward to using this raise to invest in our future goals, but the excitement didn't last long. As soon as my mother-in-law found out about my raise at work, which my husband probably bragged to her about, her reaction wasn't congratulations or a word of pride, it was a request for money. She immediately started pressuring my husband and me to start contributing financially to her family, so that she can continue to help take care of sister-in-law. She said that since both of us are now earning well and we don't have any children to support, we should have no problem giving money every month to help them out. My mother-in-law framed it like it was just a small favor, something expected of us as part of the family, but to me it felt manipulative. Instead of being happy for us or respecting the fact that I earned this promotion through hard work and dedication, she saw it as an opportunity to benefit herself and her daughter. It was incredibly frustrating. Now that I was doing well, suddenly I'm supposed to shoulder someone else's responsibilities. Someone who wasn't even trying to stand on her own 2 feet. My husband and I talked about it and we both agreed that we're not comfortable giving away our hard-earned money just so his sister can continue living a stress-free, unmotivated life under their roof. It's not that we're unwilling to help our family. We understand that sometimes people go through hard times, but this isn't one of those situations. Sister-in-law is clearly not making any real effort to improve her situation. She isn't looking for work, she's not trying to be independent, and she's made it clear she's fine relying on others to carry her. Supporting that kind of behavior just doesn't sit right with us. We work hard for what we have, and we believe it's important to use our income to build our future, not to make it easier for someone else to avoid responsibility. We want to be fair and we don't want to seem cold or selfish, but we also know how quickly situations like this can spiral into long-term obligations if we don't set clear boundaries now. We've decided that helping out occasionally is one thing, but becoming her permanent financial backup isn't something we're willing to do. Instead, we offered to help sister-in-law find a job so that she can be independent on her own. But both my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law rejected that idea completely. My sister-in-law insisted that she's just not in the right headspace to work right now and said she would much rather have us give her money every month instead. My mother-in-law quickly backed her up, agreeing and saying that forcing her to work or take responsibility would only make things worse for her mental health. This is why I think I'm going to use this opportunity to help my in-laws in a way they probably don't expect. I'm planning to gather all the fake gold jewelry they've given me over the years and give it back to them. Since my sister-in-law wants money and isn't willing to work for it, maybe she can sell those pieces and use the cash to help herself. It feels a little like turning their own game back on them. They've been giving me fake things all this time pretending they care, so why not let them put those gifts to real use? I'm curious to see how they'll react when I do this. AITA if I do this? Update 1. I've been overwhelmed by the response from everyone who has commented. I have been reading all your comments and giggling. I'm glad that almost everyone agrees with me and has been encouraging me to stand my ground. Many people say they totally understand how hurtful it is to be treated that way, and they think my idea is a clever way to handle it. Some of you have even shared your own similar experiences, which has made me feel less alone. A few people had questions for me though, and I wanted to share my answers here. Are you worried this might cause even more problems with your in-laws? Honestly, I'm prepared for some tension because I've been holding in my feelings for years. It's time to draw a line. I'm not looking to start a big fight, but I do want to show them that I'm not someone to be taken lightly. I don't expect it to change them overnight, but maybe it will make my in-laws rethink how they treat me in the future. At the very least, it sends a message that I won't support their unfair behavior. How will your husband feel about this? He supports me fully and agrees that I've been too kind for too long. He has my back completely and stands with me on this plan. He believes it's important for us to set clear boundaries so that we aren't taken advantage of by his family. Knowing he's by my side makes me feel stronger and more confident to handle this. Question: do you think your husband's family will ever fully accept you? Answer: honestly, I'm not sure. I've learned that some people may never change their opinions, but I've grown confident in myself and life we're building. I'm more focused on the relationship I have with my husband than on trying to win their approval. Thank you again to everyone who's been so kind and supportive. Your words really mean a lot to me. I'll keep you all updated on what happens next. Update 2. So this week I gathered all the fake gold jewelry that my mother-in-law had proudly given me over the years. Remembering how she always boasted about how real and valuable those gifts were, I decided to give them right back to her. I wanted to make a point and show her exactly how I felt about her fake presents and the way she's treated me. When I handed the jewelry back, my mother-in-law looked completely flabbergasted. She stared at me, clearly shocked and speechless. Then she asked why I was returning the gifts. I could see that she wasn't expecting this at all. I looked my mother-in-law straight in the eye and told her that my husband and I had talked about it, and because we care about my sister-in-law, we thought it would be best for her to have all the gold jewelry I'd received over the years. I said that she could sell those pieces and use the money to help herself. My sister-in-law was sitting right beside my mother-in-law, and I could see the surprise on her face. She looked really taken aback. Both of them stayed quiet for a moment, exchanging a quick, uneasy glance. It was clear that my words had caught them off guard and left them speechless. My mother-in-law tried to talk her way out of it, saying that while my gesture was nice, she was actually expecting me and my husband to give them real physical cash, not some fake gold jewelry. She even went on to argue that gold prices have been dropping lately, so my sister-in-law probably wouldn't get much money by selling the pieces anyway. It was clear as day that she knew the jewelry was fake and worthless, but she just didn't want to admit it out loud. You could tell that she was squirming, trying to defend the gift without actually owning up to the fact that she'd been handing me cheap knockoffs all along. Honestly, it was almost comical how hard she was trying to spin it. I decided to play along with her, so I doubled down and told my mother-in-law that I just couldn't keep these gold jewelry pieces while my sister-in-law was suffering. I even offered to go with her and my sister-in-law to a thrift store to make sure they got the best possible deal selling those fake treasures. My mother-in-law looked visibly embarrassed and kept insisting that it wasn't necessary, trying to brush off the whole idea, but I also made it very clear to both of them that my husband and I were planning to buy a house soon, and every penny we earned was going towards that goal. So unfortunately we didn't have any more money to give them other than their precious jewelry I was handing back. I made sure they understood that this wasn't just my decision. It was something my husband and I had both agreed on firmly. It was our final word on the matter. It was honestly comical to watch my mother-in-law and sister-in-law sitting there visibly uncomfortable and trying not to show just how caught off guard they were. They both knew there was no way they could admit to me that the gold jewelry was fake, so in the end they had no choice but to accept it back. No words, no protest, just silence. I wanted so badly to burst out laughing at their sad, awkward faces, but I managed to keep my composure. It was such a satisfying moment watching them squirm quietly, knowing I had finally gotten my little revenge after all these years. After the whole incident, my mother-in-law did call my husband to talk about what had happened. She tried to explain that she didn't feel right accepting the fake gold jewelry back and said she would much rather prefer cash instead, but my husband stood firm and calmly repeated everything I had told her. He told her the same thing that I had, that we were saving all our money to buy a house and simply couldn't give them cash. He made it clear that the jewelry was the only thing we were offering, and that was what we had both agreed on together. And despite her arguments and attempts to push for money, my husband didn't budge. He stood his ground and made sure she understood that this was the final decision. Update 3. It's been a few months since my last update, and a lot of people have been asking how things are going with my in-laws. Recently, my father-in-law made the tough decision to kick my sister-in-law out of the house. Turns out she's been using drugs again, and this time her condition has gotten even worse, and on top of that she had been stealing from my in-laws for months without them knowing. She even got a credit card in my father-in-law's name and racked up a significant amount of debt. My father-in-law only found out when he received a bill in the mail, which shocked him deeply. When he first confronted my sister-in-law, she tried to blame others and acted like it wasn't her fault, but when he threatened to involve the police, she finally admitted the truth. My father-in-law tried to get her into rehab, but she refused and started throwing tantrums, breaking things around the house. And in the end, out of frustration and for the sake of the household, he had no choice but to ask her to leave his house immediately. Later that same evening, my sister-in-law came to our place asking for help. Basically, she wanted us to give her money. However, my husband stood firm and refused to let her in unless she agreed to go to rehab. He made it clear that we were willing to support her, but only if she took that step towards getting better. After some back and forth, she finally agreed. So, we helped her get admitted to a rehab center and she is currently there working on her recovery. Hopefully, she gets well soon. Meanwhile, my mother-in-law has been pressuring my husband and me to pay off the debt that my sister-in-law racked up. She insists that it's our responsibility to help the family out financially even though the debt was caused by my sister-in-law's actions. On top of that, she's blaming us for never supporting them enough and accusing us of not doing our part as family members. It's frustrating because we have already been clear about setting boundaries, especially since this debt isn't even our fault. Still, mother-in-law keeps pushing the idea that we should be the ones to fix the mess. Well, my husband and I are not going to give them a penny no matter what she says. Update 4. It's been a few weeks since my sister-in-law went to rehab, but things have taken a difficult turn. She ran away from the rehab center and disappeared without telling anyone. We were really worried, so we ended up having to call the police to help search for her. She was missing for 3 long days, and during that time none of us knew where she was or if she was safe. Thankfully, someone found her at a homeless shelter, but the relief was short-lived because when we went to get her, she seemed like she was back on drugs again. She also refused to go back with us to the rehab, and since she is an adult, there isn't much that we can legally do to force her. She currently continues to stay at this shelter all on her own.